Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we're going racing here in the Hungarian GP. Very excited for this one coming your way. Today, as you look at the R&D chart, right there you can see Williams has really made some upgrades. They are up into the midfield alongside us and might even be giving us a run for our money in some of these GPs here upcoming over these next few episodes. After today, of course, we have the summer break, and that could lead to potential roster changes. Wouldn't expect them at this point, as well as we will be signing, of course, with Aston Martin for the rest of the season. But that also leads us into our announcement here for this episode. I am formally announcing here, a part of this My Driver Career Mode, that I am leaving Aston Martin at the conclusion of this season. So we will not be returning to Aston Martin here at the end of the season alongside Sebastian Vettel. My current plans are unknown of what we're doing next season, but I have an idea of where we will be landing, so stay tuned on that later in the season. But that's how we start off the weekend. We say, hey, we're leaving Aston Martin. It's unfortunate because they've treated us well. We've had some good results. We got our first 2 wins of our career here with Aston Martin, as well as our first handful of podiums, and we've been alongside my Formula One hero of Sebastian Vettel. So we'll see if Sebastian remains with Aston Martin as well, but I feel like we're worth a better car, and I feel like we're definitely proving that throughout this season. Of course, this Aston Martin is competitive enough to win GPs at certain times, and we proved that in Azerbaijan, where we had downright the fastest car alongside Vettel. So I think we have made a good case, though, to continue to get to a better ride, and we're definitely going to, I hope, do that next season now, as though focusing on the GP weekend here in Hungary now, as things were going nice and smooth here in this opening practice session, and we would wrap it up here in now the very bottom actually of the grid. Things weren't looking the most promising so far here now, as we were all the way down in 19th place there on the medium compound tire. So Sebastian Vettel there, he was in P8. I'm expecting to see him potentially take a grid penalty here in this episode and start at the back, because he had that engine failure in the last episode in Britain there under the safety car. We come through in qualifying though here in Hungary, and well, it was raining, and that was not what we wanted to see. I've definitely not had the best experiences in the rain here in F1 2021 so far, but to my surprise, we would be competitive enough here now, as we would get these laps out of the way, as it was going to steadily rain all session long. So I just wanted to do my laps as soon as I could, and I actually did 3 laps. It took me 3 complete laps to actually get a good enough time in to be comfortable enough to make it into Q2, and we went P5 here on my 3rd attempt, and we would barely get through. We were P15, so thank goodness we decided to go out and do those whole 3 laps, because we only made it by nearly a full 10th, but yeah, not a lot of room to work with there. As we come through into Q2, and it was raining in Q2, so I waited till the very end of the second qualifying session to go out and make a lap. My first lap, I only went P11. Vettel, he went P12. Not looking good for the Aston Martin duo. We come through to the final turn in our second and final lap here. We cross the line, and we go P10. We just barely squeeze in, or sorry, P9, but Sebastian Vettel is out. So he's definitely going to be taking a grid penalty here. So Vettel misses Q3, we barely make Q3, and now that would lead us into the very end of this 3rd qualifying session. And it once again was raining at the beginning of Q3, and it dried up right towards the end here now, as I actually completely botched my turn 1. So we come through to set our first lap, and I decided we go fastest because we were the first one to put a lap in on the driest track. So now we go around for one more lap here, just trying to find any time we can possibly get, and we had found about 0.3 of a second. Then we got up to about 0.4 of a second, but now we're falling down the order as Hamilton comes through. He goes P1. The Verstappen and Perez duo, the Red Bulls, they were only P7, P8 now, as I only was able to find about 0.4 total here in this car, nearly half a second. We come through the final turn. It's going to be better than P10. I hope we cross the line, and it looks like it still might be P10. Yes, it is. We were way off actually there. I'm not sure why, but we got some work to do going into the Hungarian GP, to say the least. As Hamilton, Bottas on the front row. Ferrari has made some upgrades, and you can see that as well. Leclerc P3 and Carlos Sainz P6, as we're going to head to the grid here in Hungary.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. Historically, a good race for first victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the first time here. 14 corners then for our drivers to navigate at the 2.7 mile Hungaro ring today. It's 6 lefts and 8 rights around a lap here, with average speeds in the region of 120 miles per hour. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Norris, Daniel Ricciardo and Sainz, Perez, Verstappen, the rookie and Yuki Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Russell, Nicholas Latifi and Ocon. Ireland, Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Guan Yu Zhou and Lance Stroll. Mick Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel starts from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
There you saw the grid, and you saw our teammate of Sebastian Vettel starting at the very back there due to that grid penalty that he will be taking. We were not surprised to see that. I feel like he was going to take it regardless of where he ended up in qualifying. It was just unfortunate that he had a really rough qualifying effort there now, as we would be on the grid ready to go with Lewis Hamilton on pole here now, trying to continue this fight for his 8th World Championship now, as he's trying to open up that gap even further as it's 5. Red lights, Hamilton, Bottas here front row, and it's going to be lights out, and we are underway here from the Hungarian GP. Now a long drive down towards turn 1. No wet conditions, so Bottas shouldn't take anybody out like a torpedo right here, like our IRL, and he keeps it clean there. Leclerc around the outside. We're 3 wide in the middle there. A bunch of 3 wide action there. You saw Carlos Sainz 3 wide in front of us. We were 3 wide as well, and I was just hoping that I didn't make any contact. Can't confirm. We kept it clean, so everything was okay here. Now, as you can see me right on that gearbox of Sainz now. Vettel still last place, right behind the Haas duo, a former teammate of Lance Stroll, as well as Mick Schumacher here now, as everybody single file already pretty much there. Nice and clean though on the start of this GP, but the Haas duo, they're going at it there through that left-hander, but they would also get settled out there as Hamilton continues to lead the way off the grid. And Hamilton lately, he's been having really good starts, because previously last season, the season before, we were seeing Hamilton get beat out or beat off the grid by Valtteri Bottas, who would be able to get ahead of him every time. But now things are kind of changing, and Hamilton's starting to have that upper hand again. And here we are now checking my vehicle condition. I had a little bit of contact on the start, but never did pick up any wing damage. So P11 here after we started P10. So we lost 1 position on the start, and I think that was to Giovinazzi that was in the Williams, who had a really good start, but we come through to the 3rd lap when DRS, of course, gets enabled, and I was struggling. I couldn't get close enough to Carlos Sainz to pass him, and even with the aid of having DRS, I felt like it might be a bit of a tough challenge to be able to put the fight to Carlos Sainz there in that Ferrari, and that was definitely a thing, because I still couldn't get to him even with the DRS help. As now he makes a lunge around the left-hand side of Antonio Giovinazzi there, and the Williams are going to be side by side. Here's an opportunity potentially for myself to get in on the fun and in on this party here and try to get a pass made on Giovinazzi, get up into the points, but clearly we have lost that pace that Aston Martin has early in the season. There, we're going to make a move to the left-hand side of Gio and make it work that we're going to be side by side down towards the left-hander, and we continue side by side. I abuse the track limits a little bit, but we did not even get a warning, surprisingly, even with strict corner cutting on, and we get up into the points. Due to, of course, all those DNFs we had earlier in the season, that has pushed the team facilities being upgraded to Spec 3 back quite considerably, and that is causing Aston Martin to fall behind on the R&D chart, and you're seeing that come into effect because this was all the pace I had, and Vettel, he missed Q3, and here we are. We only got into Q3 just because of the way things worked out there in Q2, just fortunately for us. So I knew we were in trouble here, because this was all the pace that I had, and I was losing time to the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, a car that we have outpaced all season long. And now Williams over here has got some speed as well with Latifi and Giovinazzi. They're P10, P11, as we see Lewis Hamilton though leading the way on this 10th lap of the Hungarian GP. Leclerc still up there in a podium position now, having a good run. Then you got McLaren of Norris and Ricciardo 4th and 5th, Perez and Verstappen 6th and 7th place here as we were closing in towards a pit stop cycle. But Jeff actually approached me on the radio here. I forgot to show this on the video, but Jeff approached me because the original strategy was to put on the hard compound tire here around lap 16, but then he said, hey, do you want to go to the end of about lap 25 and actually put on the soft tire instead and do about a 10 lap run to the end of this race? And I decided, you know what, I felt pretty comfortable so far on these medium compound tires, so I decided, you know what, let's actually do that. Let's put on the soft compound tire, run an extra 10 laps or so compared to the AI, because at this point I realize we don't have good pace on this car today. We just set the fastest lap of the GP recently, but we still don't have good pace, so I want to try and do something different from what everybody else is doing. So Hamilton and them had come into the pit lane here now, as you can see, but Bottas, he had just pitted as well a lap later, and he was actually going to come out still behind Lewis Hamilton now, as Leclerc will continue side by side actually into turn 1 alongside Bottas. And who's going to get out in front of this battle right here? It's Leclerc, who moves up into second place of the GP, or provisional second place, because I do lead the way here now, as we were just hanging on towards the end of about lap 25, stretching these medium compound tires out further than everybody, as Hamilton sets the fastest lap. And of course he was putting in a very fast pace and consistently closing the gap, but I was pushing this car to the limit on this medium tire, so just reducing the gap that Hamilton gained as much as possible, because once we put on that soft tire here in a few laps time, we are going to be flying compared to some of these drivers on their hard compounds. So I was just giving it everything I had, and you look on the track map, you can see Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas, Norris, Ricciardo, they're all in a bit of a train, and Red Bull is quite significantly off the pace. And I feel like what hasn't helped Aston Martin here today is this track goes quite against our strengths here. Now, as you guys know, Aston Martin, we saw it in Azerbaijan, very, very fast straight line speed. Well, we only have one true long straightaway here in Hungary, so we definitely don't have much of an advantage. But at the conclusion of lap 26, we would come into the pit lane here now, setting my fastest lap of the race currently at this point. But Hamilton, he was about 5 seconds behind as we had come into the pit lane, so we got some work to do here, but I feel like this strategy will allow us to potentially fight for a better finishing position than what we were going to get of a probably 8th, 9th, 10th place finish. We might even have a chance for a top 5 on this one now, as we come out P9, and you can see Sainz, Harris, less than 3 seconds up the road, and we are going to be significantly faster in these opening laps on the soft compound by the time we come through to the 28th lap. Just one lap later, we are all over the gearbox of Carlos Sainz. I know we have no time to waste. We got to use these soft tires to our advantage, a lunge up the inside of Carlos Sainz and to turn to a very bold and aggressive move, but we pull it off. Now Perez, we got to pass him, but I got stuck behind Perez actually through this whole second sector and the third sector now, as I could have got aggressive right there, but I felt like I owed it to Red Bull after what happened in Silverstone last episode to not make an aggressive move and put one of their drivers at risk after we had that big collision with Max Verstappen there in Silverstone, which resulted in him getting a bunch of wing damage and myself getting some wing damage, and of course I completely destroyed Verstappen's chances of a podium finisher, but we easily cruised by Perez down into turn 1, and then next target was his Red Bull teammate of Max Verstappen. Here we set the fastest lap of the race on lap 30, just 6 laps to go. Ricciardo at the back of that train of him, Norris, Bottas, Leclerc, and Hamilton. Well, he's 7.5 seconds up the road. We could get there. It's going to be a bit of a stretch here, as I'm going to make a lunge up the inside of Verstappen in turn 2. This time we pass him clean, no contact. Up into P6 we go. Already, right call there from Jeff to make this strategy change and go long on the mediums and go short on the softs instead of going to the hard compound, because we are already up into P6, and if we were on that hard compound tire, I don't think we would have gotten this far up the grid. So now pushing hard as I possibly can. I was pushing even harder on these tires than I was on those medium compound tires here. Now we had cut the gap down to nearly 3 seconds to Ricciardo with just a few laps now. We're coming to 3 laps to go, and what was benefiting us is the leaders are as well approaching back markers, and a lot of them. A good 5 or so back markers with the Haas cars, as well as the Andretti Autosport cars, and you can see Hamilton was dealing with them now. He's lapping a Williams. Very surprising to see Latifi going a lap down, and even Giovinazzi having a rough race. There's Leclerc in second place. He's wide, and he's going to be out of the race here. Engine malfunction for him. I'm already here, and I nearly plow into the back of Ricciardo. We get an illegal overtaking as a caution was out, so I have to let Norris and Ricciardo go, but we get back going, and we are here now. We had gotten to them, and now the fight is to Ricciardo and Norris, and all of a sudden we have a chance to finish on the podium. What? Now is Leclerc. Unfortunately, heartbreak for him. He's running P2. He is out of the race, and now here we are right behind Ricciardo with 2 laps to go in this GP, and I'm going to send one up the inside down into turn 1. He still, of course, really can't fight too hard because of this tire compound difference. I have a ton of oversteer, and as soon as I completed this pass on Ricciardo, I had kind of felt that switch over in the soft compound tire. I was pushing so hard, and I felt like there wasn't a lot of pushing life left in this tire. So we come through to start the final lap, and you can see I couldn't even barely get to Norris here as we dive down into turn 1, and it's going to be Hamilton, Bottas, Norris, their top 3. Of course, want to get that final podium position here, but can we pull it off as we dive down into turn 2? Like I said, Perfect strategy call from Jeff to go instead of that hard compound tire to push late on the mediums, or push long on the mediums, and go to that soft compound, because we had gained a good 5 positions out of doing that so far. Can we gain 1 more? It's going to be tough to pass Norris from this point on here now, as we might need some help with maybe catching Lance Stroll and the Haas at the perfect time, and that might be what happens here. There is Lance Stroll right there. He is slow getting out of the way, but no, we're going to be the one that actually gets the worst end of that there, as Norris is able to increase the gap, and now I realize I'm not going to be able to get the podium at this point. I was still pushing, but I knew I couldn't get there, so I decided to just bring it home at this point here, but continue to just try and push to see if Norris makes a mistake, but as you can tell, it's not going to happen at this point. But Lewis Hamilton, who's had a comeback season, you could argue here, after 2 seasons of going without a championship, the longest in nearly a decade, it will be Lewis Hamilton extending his championship lead with a win in Hungary, and here comes Bottas for second, Norris third, myself in P4 here as we cross the line. What a finish, what a strategy call from Jeff. He completely made our race there, and wow, a 4th place finish with the car that just wasn't feeling it here today in Hungary, and Sebastian Vettel gets driver of the day as he somehow finds himself in the top 10 as we head to the top steps here on the podium for the celebrations.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
But I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
There you saw the podium celebrations. Unfortunately, I think a glitch took our fastest lap point away, because we had the fastest lap with a 1:14.4, but apparently, Nicholas Latifi in the Williams set a 1:10.357. I'm not sure how that happened, but and also apparently he DNF, so something weird happened there, because we never saw him DNF in the race, which is interesting. But there you see the point standings now. 2 points separate myself and Vettel in 5th and 6th. Hamilton has a full race lead on his teammate of Bottas. Perez 28 points out, and Norris 37 out. So we need to have Lewis lose a few races here to allow this thing to once again tighten up here now, but it looks like it's going to be a 4-horse race between Norris, Perez, Bottas, and Hamilton at that point. It's myself and Vettel over 2 races out. Not really going to be able to make that up, especially with our cars starting to lack ground here in this R&D chart, as well as it's a 3-race battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th now, as Mercedes is pretty comfortable up top now. But that, of course, wraps it up for this episode here with us today in this My Driver career mode. It took me a few extra days to get this video out just because I was so busy lately, but I hope you enjoyed it. And we go into the summer break. We are, of course, extending our contract to end the season with Aston Martin, but we will be leaving Aston Martin at the end of this 3rd season of this My Driver career mode. Where are we going after that? You'll have to stay tuned, but we'll be back after the summer break at the Belgian GP, a track where I feel like our Aston Martin could definitely have some advantages, but as well some disadvantages mixed in. So we'll see where our car stacks up there on the grid. But that does it for me. I will see you guys in the next one for the Belgian GP. Have a great day, everybody.